and bottom cover from disasters and change. This speaks to the intensifying weather patterns, natural hazards, and bugs. We had these conversations with the Oxford General, and we also have statutory ability to understand natural hazards and make sure our communities are well. So, outcome: communities are less vulnerable and exposed to natural hazards. Our approach would be to work with iwi, communities and territorial authorities to understand natural hazard risks, how these are increasing with climate change, and identify priority areas for adaptation planning and risk reduction. The progress measures would be a framework and plan for resilience to natural hazard risk, meets adaptation legislation, and helps inform the region's development spatial plan. We're going to talk about this in more detail.
Word agency, I think it should have government agencies as well.
Yeah.
Because we protect a whole lot of their assets.
Yeah.
And they're not ratepayers. And we want them to pay more. That's it? No.
The government puts money in at the start of the project, like that bud scheme, and that was built in the 50s and 60s. They put millions and millions into it, and then they put in the kind of funding that we're getting at the moment, the different assets funding. They put that capital money up front. They don't expect you to come back and rate them every year.
No, I'm not saying rates.
No, but like
Our approach, it says. Work with iwi, does say trying to work with government.
We'll include that. And it's also because we have to work with government for all sorts of things. So that's the one.
Yeah. Oh, we're back on. No, they're not working. But no. Okay, it's just Christmas lights. I want to just raise a concern I have, and I don't have an issue with which I've got there, Karen, but we have to have a reality check in terms of, West Coast has gone to the point where they're not insuring houses. We have to have a reality check about where people have houses and the insurability of that sort of thing, and it shouldn't be our responsibility. It should be the individual. So that to me is part of an education process. If you want to build a house in a stupid place, you carry the cost. It's not regional council or district council responsibility. So you don't think it's captured in our? No. I think it's implied that we will take full responsibility, and I don't think we should do that. No, I think it's about understanding the risk, but it's not mitigating them or compensating or anything like that in there.
And then ensuring that the spatial plan gives clarity about where you should.
Yeah. First.
I'd like to take issue with this wording with intensifying weather patterns and natural hazards. What happens to there?
Just now.
It's been happening for years. Right, you've been around this happening before. We changed the environment. Of course, you're going to get changes in outcomes. But the weather patterns, and you can go back to the East Valley when 1938 when they had far worse floods down there than they did a couple of years ago. So I really challenge this concept that the weather pattern, sure, the weather changes. It changes all the time. But to infer that it's getting more intense, guess what? If you go and look at Ian Wishart's website, and he's got documented evidence that it is not getting worse, it's not intensifying.
And we have so much evidence globally and everywhere else from scientists with expertise in it is. So there's might be 3% of people left who think that this isn't happening, but it's very much it.
But he needs to the point. Because if humans can intensify the work on land, these weather patterns wouldn't be affecting the land.
Yeah.
So he's right in the point. In the meantime, it's happening.
It's
The
happening.
humans are happening, you know,
Exactly, so we can say
it's happening. Have it, Mangi Kawe, that gave away, that was humans, they cleaned up all the hills, you know, whatever. So there are two things we have to have here, Karen. It's around, the intensity of what we're doing with the land. How do we ensure that is, done right? Or in cohorts, but understanding the weather patterns that are changing. That's the order.
But we can agree
Well,
that.
You can't check, yeah. Things that like we are, because, you know, the intent of Cambridge, for instance, their intensive building of suburbs out there is massive, you know. And then Hamilton itself, but you just go down the road, saying Highway 1. Everyone's got.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's intentional.
But I totally agree with what Caroline's just saying. Most of our schemes were designed in the 50s.
Yep.
And now they're dealing with population growth of 2026. And our population's more than doubled since then, most probably. So our concrete hard surfaces have over the most probably tripled, not doubled.
Look, I want to stick with our strategic direction and not get too sidelined, so.
It's sidelined. And that's-
I understand it's.
That's fact. It's sidelined, so yeah.
I think we can look at the wording of it to talk about what the impact of weather and previous developments is on the impact.
And that's what I was going to say, allow changing weather patterns, because it's forever changing.
But we do have some directions from governments and others to plan for the future because of projected changes in the weather. And we do have to protect this organisation's liability if we don't.
That's what people doing with floodplains.
That's the outcome you just.
Yeah, Karen,
So we
thanks.
move on,
Yes.
because I think that's covered, and we can certainly put that in the comments. This one in your, we will have goal of involvement in particular about flood impacts and reduce within agreed service levels for communities. And flood infrastructure is enduring and affordable for ratepayers. Statement?
I just wonder if that's the place where you should, because we're talking about community auditor general's report, but should that be also the place where you consider investigating session of CCO and blah, 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 you know, because obviously the mechanism goes in there as well.
As well. I thought we
What?
covered it in
Well,
MBS.
You think it's covered earlier?
yeah, we've got the mechanism previously for that. No,
I think this is a typical. People like embedded in it. Should be in our flood and drainage infrastructure. Because.
Yeah.
But this is where are not without streams, and streams can't operate without rivers, it's integrated, and without the drainage. Then the, yes, it's got to have both.
including river management. Or is that encompassed in flood and drainage? You,
Yeah.
yes, it's, yeah, it's a question.
To me, it's encompassed, I don't agree, can you?
There's infrastructure.
Three distinct areas that we do. So flood protection is infrastructure, land drainage is the other part of infrastructure that's feeding into the rivers, and then there's a separate management program. And the fourth one is actually catchment management. And I think it's really important to acknowledge all four because it is integrated all the catchment program.
You two work together.
Flood drainage infrastructure and, what was it?
Catchment management.
Catchment.
Yeah, including river management, yeah, I think they've got across that. Jen,
Thanks. I like this one. It was actually, I got something correct, but it was a comment on the previous slide. It was that work with, I've seen it in the strategy lots of times. What I'd really like to change that wording to is genuine ongoing engagement with. I know we do some of that, but what I'm getting at is the thing that we brought up before between the Garys and myself about engagement with council, and I think that signals that more than just work with. I know it's semantics sometimes, but that was because the experience with the Whanakawa Coast project, we have genuine ongoing engagement with managing that through their plan. And one thing I'd love for this organisation to be counting over time is how many communities it has genuine ongoing engagement with on this topic.
Is genuine.
No, you don't have to have that exact word, but ongoing engagement with would be fine.
It's here, we can go this year.
It's in the slide. But that would be great, because that's where I'm leading to for progress measure perhaps later about having that ongoing engagement. And it's purely from reading the Peter work yesterday about how consultation is such one-off that our community gets disengaged one at a time, versus what I've seen with that community, which is pretty cool.
Thanks.
My question was to Tracy, if she would like to just tell us about what's happening in 2029 with this funding.
So we have an existing project that's active at the moment. That is commenced with move on funding. There's a setting KPI in terms of agreeing the principles around that approach to funding by 30 June this year. The intention then is that we can take that into a long-term plan conversation or some consultation on principles with the community, and then we can implement new funding arrangements from there, possibly with the need for some transitional arrangements.
So will this mean that the 15% from general rates, according, moving in, all that thing is now being considered as part of this?
So all of that is up for grabs. In terms of a complete reconsideration of the environment within which we provide these services, we should be paying. And what funding tools we have available for that, which may extend beyond traditional rating assistance as well. But it's all under exploration.
Which committee is that reporting back to? Does that fit in with what Noel and Robbie are talking about with potential CCRs?
Yes, there is absolutely an overlap with that. So I did 2 hours of project yesterday, just looking at sort of some research articles on the range of funding mechanisms that are available to us, and we think a little bit differently around catchment management and protection. And some of those, I did raise with them the consideration of where some councillors are thinking around the future of management governance arrangements and what that would mean to some of those funding tools and what would or wouldn't be available under an arrangement. So they're going away to do some work on that as well.
It's almost the beginning of the investigation. So it'd be useful if it was back fast.
Okay, let's leave that there.
Question. We've got dates in here. It just struck me that by 2029. So is that 1st of January 2029, or 30 June 2029, or 31 December 2029? Can you give a bit more specific?
Financial year.
Sorry?
Financial year.
So you talk about what 30 June 2029? And can we, if it's earlier in the document, can we align those dates to actually the time, a real date?
July, to be implemented. The effect of the rating year.
Yeah, that gives the then direction of what to do as well.
Thank you. So we can do that before.
Is it necessary to have a date in these, but we have nothing else?
Well, we don't.
It's not that complicated. But I understand why. It's just it may change because everything is so. No,
That's the one thing that we actually did have as an end.
Yeah, that's right.
We knew it was about to start.
Chris?
Yeah, it has to be taken as read. When you put a date in, it's a financial year end, June, because you've got to have a cut-off point. And that's what, whenever you put a date in a document, generally, unless it's specified otherwise, that's what it means. So that's best to sell.
Okay, yep, moving on.
Got it, thank you. And then just the final one there is about civil defence and emergency management and ensuring that we are ready. willing and able. So it's what it is. Standing natural resources, and Robbie's just walked out. He wanted to talk about this one. He'll be back. So, as are there in the first outcome, and that's about our biosecurity program, the approach, and leveraging risk assessments and technology for development. So, progress measure, these have been laid out in the regional pest management plan through to 2030. Simple.
And just the question was, that's BAU. Is there something that we're lifting there? Or is this the outcome, the same as what we currently do, or is there more to come?
What we do based on do it really well. If we do to the collection contract, business as usual, done well.
Okay.
Just on that point, we were discussing that Koi Carp is not currently in the pest plan. Whether that could be something that could happen to the catchment to rather than the regionally. It's obviously an issue that's quite relevant in terms of pest management discussions.
Here's your pests, weeds and diseases, Robbie. Or not your diseases.
For yourself.
French away.
I mean, it's all of them.
No, you said it like Did you have some wording? Or are you happy with the
No, I'm
words?
just reading it now.
Worded?
Just raise the issue of Koi Carp, and that's what you need to do actually.
So would that not just, I mean, if you start to get into Koi Carp, then you can start to name Hornmore, you can start to name Privet, you can start to name, I threw that in there. I think you've got pests, you've got weeds, and you've got diseases. I think that encompasses that range.
Agreed.
And it's just
As an outcome.
Koi Carp is not in the pest management plan.
It's not our key, but it's to work with key stakeholders and the government organisation that's responsible for it.
Okay, you're happy with it, yes.
Also, another question to look at the.
Yeah, I want to get down to the, yeah, we know, we certainly are well aware of those little orange bastards that are swimming around. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
So are you happy to?
That's a
move on?
technical term, Tracy.
From a fisherman. It's actually interesting, coming over this morning, this was one of the key things Michael Laws was talking about in the Otago plan. No, it was pest plants. They've got no ability, and even though it's a weed in their region or pests, he was talking about that we need a delivery system where if landowners aren't going to do something about it, that we need the ability to go and fix the issue and then send the landowners the bill for it if they're not prepared to do something about it.
Good idea. You don't have
And then Michael Laws was talking about it, that's something that he's trying to implement into Otago Regional Council at the moment.
Do we
do
that, don't we?
Yeah, so then our regional pest management plan is our rule book, essentially.
We
Yeah,
don't
so
have one.
for certain pests, if there are responsibilities that individuals aren't upholding, we do in some long cases go on properties, and we do put, for example, liens against properties to recover our costs, sorting out what should have been sorted out at landowner issue, at landowner level.
Thanks. I've got Gary, then I've got Jen, then I've got Noel. Gary.
That is specifically what's being discussed in the north there with that word. Is whether doctors for 52% responsibility. So that's a big question mark around that. Rather than throwing it back on the farmers and landowners, they're on your property, it's your problem, you tidy it up. So that's
The waterways isn't their property, though. We're talking about landowners who are like down in Otago.
So let's keep it high level.
Yeah.
Relative to this, There's plenty of committees that's
I-
will come in.
I don't know if that says that, and I know we're going through the process of putting in, is it a bylaw? Not,
There's a bylaw action somewhere within council that have been pushing for years.
yeah,
So is that captured in all this?
yeah, that's a good question.
Yes. We.
So there is a genuine, this will be actually in the previous area around sustained infrastructure. And looking at how we sustain infrastructure going forward and whether or not we need a bylaw to help with.
Is that captured under that wording in the previous?
It's captured in general terms under the sustainment of our infrastructure.
Okay, we can take up when that's going to come forward, because we need to see that this year.
Something you guys can work through, I see.
We'll.
Jen,
Yeah, sorry.
not straight forward.
Clarify the bylaw matter. There is a very specific process, as you're aware of, in the Local Government Act that we must progress through. The first thing is the assessment of whether a bylaw is in fact the best instrument. So before we jump to a bylaw, and it's not in regard to pests, which I think I heard somebody over there say that's a bylaw. It's specifically in regard to some activities related to our infrastructure, protection of and access to. So that is quite the process. The key matter is there is no money associated to that as a work program, and it's something that we will bring back with the foreshadowing in the LTP. So I just wanted to respond to your, we need that this year, Noel, to make them aware of the process if you're going to pop it in here as a matter you want ticked off, just how much we can actually do.
At least 20 years ago, the Central Waikato Drainage just recommended bylaws.
I haven't been here for 20 years.
Yes, I have been in drainage. I've worked out for 33 or 36 years. So I'm too retired. But the long and the short of it is this organisation has taken far too long to get a bylaw in place, which other regional councils have done, and effective bylaws, and we have not yet, and we talked about this.
Well, that's
LTP 18 months ago, and the reality is we are letting ourselves down and the community down by not having such a bylaw in place.
Jen,
The pest issue is a growing issue and it's a big threat to our economy. So I'm getting from you, Karen, that what we've signalled is we want to do what we currently think would be better. And I don't know if it's the resourcing issue or what it is, but I do think we need a lift in the pest management space over time. And one thing I'd really like to see, big picture, is the regional sector working together on a joint funding bid to sort some pests out nationally, like we did with before the deluge. Can that happen, even if we change nothing in their previous priority?
I'm looking at Greg because he's involved in all these national.
Because, yeah, because like I see in Huntley, that we've thrown more money at Canadian geese, and we just keep throwing it every few years, but I know that we can't sort it because they just keep coming from the other region.
Yeah, I'll make a couple of comments. One is that our regional pest management plan was recently reviewed.
Yes, so
And there was a very careful consideration of what's in there and what's not.
Yeah.
And Canadian guest was one aspect that was debated in depth by the subcommittee. As was forward in terms of actually what can we do in there for what. So they are acknowledged as elements in our biosecurity strategy.
Yeah.
The other point I'd make is that we do have a biosecurity business case that was approved at the last long-term plan we're approved at the moment. And that has included a uplift in some particular areas such as wildland vines, and freshwater biosecurity, marine biosecurity, and also pest plant management. And so that is working through, still working through that each year, what looks like the process to increase that. And the third point I'll make is that we are very active in the national space to partner with our government agencies to implement plans. Code and protection was one example, wildlife is another example where we provide resources, government provides resources as well to try to tackle some of those more challenging pests. So that's a key role for to initiate and maintain those conversations with relevant local authorities.
you see there being a path currently or is more direction needed for there to be a conversation like before the deluge? A full-fledged conversation.
I know that there's already a number of active conversations happening with MPI. Around different pests. I know that our marine pathway management project is one that we're working on right now.
I was just going to offer the rapid review the government's undertaking actually will give greater clarity, but we don't know when this is there.
Perhaps we can still do that. We don't need to say anything here, but that I'm just signaling.
Understood. We
I
have
think
conversation and we'll
Yeah,
carry
thank
with
you.
us to. Ongoing sustainable natural resources and outcome, native plants and animals and the ecosystems they live in are thriving. And we have a number of approaches to deliver on this outcome. Data, information, taking a whole approach from mountains to sea, and then the measure would be the state of the environment report, delivering accurate, compliant environmental information that supports evidence-based decision and is readily accessible. Identifying the highest priority biodiversity sites of landowners to protect and restore them. And there is a program, implementation of that is reported. Developing opportunities to generate income from carbon and biodiversity credits. This was an approach that Council approved last year, or end of 24, and this is now underway, and we should have some information coming to the Resilience Committee on 17th of February about some of the latest sites and opportunities for it. And then empowering communities, iwi and partner agencies to actively participate in biodiversity protection and restoration. And then measure their role, if you could scroll. Yeah, just the number of people, groups participating with natural heritage function. One more back. I just lost it. Yeah, again, with digital goes on, fine. But you know what that is because you've been familiar with the natural heritage function.
Yeah.
The landscape interest under the highest priority diversity sites and the intention of the natural heritage program and the governance of that going forward. The biodiversity strategy, we always talk about governance of that going forward. To do that well would be as well. Like we've talked in the Whangamarino action plan, there'd be governance for that, but we also talked in the biodiversity strategy. So
If it's in the strategy,
yeah, it'll be. Right.
yeah.
Chris.
Look, I'm not comfortable with the implementation of the environmental course decision, being what that decision is.
Sorry, if everyone happens to move on to the next one, let's go.
Sorry.
Yeah. There we are, we're there now.
Yep.
Just trying to speed up.
I'm really grateful for that. I'm not. Yeah, when it's on our heels, it'd be good.
So, okay, thank you. I am not happy to have that statement sitting in our strategic plan. I think we can have review, whatever it is, but we need to be conscious of the potential implications of plan change one. Whatever the court ruling may be, it may be subject to challenge by the regional council. Who knows where it's going to end up? I'm not happy just to say that we implement it as of right once for the MCO.
What would be suitable to put there?
Sorry, I've got to go because we're talking about the council breaking the law. Council cannot, by statute, break the law. We are obligated under the current RMA and in other legal decisions that the council must implement the decision of the Environment Court. If you want to do something else, you cannot take this out of the equation. Whilst I am at odds and was it, and I'll continue, I was submitted an opposition for parts of the fencing one. the issue is legally, council cannot do we have to do what, is up there. We cannot not do it. Sorry, it's just, you've got to get with the law.
Well, no, there are some times when common sense should prevail,
I accept that,
and this might be one of those.
the council, have a statute that we have to comply with the law. If you don't comply with the law, it's an immediate reason why the government gets follows all that.
Yep, well, so be it.
Okay, Gary McGuire.
I'm with Chris, I'm a bit concerned about seeing the successful implementation of the Marine Action Plan as a pilot. Being integrated with practices, and question marks around what's in their plan at the moment. So had that put there as being that that's what we're following. Well,
But I think for me, that wording indicates that there's learnings to come out of that process. And as a pilot, by no means states that that's the golden rule, if you like, is the ability to look at learnings as we have out of CITA.
and it's another point too, is that that's taken as being PC1 dressed up in another skill. And that, but that could be rolled out into other actions in question. I know that the voters are sitting on the pretext that they were not happy.
No,
Look, PC, the following action plan is being redrafted into its second version, updated a week ago, and in discussion with a couple of councillors yesterday, I think it's been sent to Robbie and I and a number of the all of the committee, and the invitation is to share that more widely to get feedback for staff to finalise the draft to a recommendation that's going to come to a workshop. The concern I think that's already public consultation by default. So there are elements, and as I indicated to my staff yesterday, neither Robbie or I are going to comment on that draft plan because we're going to preserve our right to participate in the decision making in relation to the action plan. The action plan has some elements at the moment which I have some concerns about, but I'm not going to be specific. Reserve my position. Yeah, the reality is, if that's in there, we need to have something like to achieve the proposed action plan or approved action plan, because at this stage it has not been finalised and this council hasn't signed it off. So to preempt signing it off, so I think we need to put a word in there like achieve the approved action plan.
that's in the first square.
Well,
No, it assumes.
which is an assumption,
think
but the
you're right.
reality is,
Yeah,
it's, I don't personally see that we will approve it in its form unless, and that's where we, until I see it come back, there are some reservations, and I'm sure many of you will have that. So we need to be a little bit careful with what we say, because we've already got people who are outside of the committee coming to council saying, hey, this is going to screw my operation. We need to be careful and not send a preemptive.
that's really helpful.
Keith,
Yeah, both on the Marino and the PC1, I totally concur with what Noel said. Hey, Noel, we're agreeing today, it's a bit of a run.
I've been around so long.
And in terms of the wording of implement the Environment Board's decision on plan change one, there are so many unknowns at this stage. We don't know what the RMA implications are, and we don't know whether the government's going to intercede in the process. And then I'm very, very conscious that we need to, if it does come through as a plan, as Noel suggests, we have to make a very measured decision on how we implement it. We can take an aggressive approach, or we can take a light-fingered approach. So I think, Karen, the wording needs to be changed, and so it's takes into account the processes that are yet to come.
Liz?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, if we can just take another look at that wording, I think. There's lots of options. I did a quick check, GPT, and there's lots of words you can take out, take the word implement out to record something else. I think that's pretty much the bottom line.
Yeah, thanks. Chris?
I think the importance of this section is that, I mean, looking after and improving water quality is this council's function. And so we've got to be able to tell the community what we're going to do. And that's the point of this, isn't it, Karen? Trying to put some very clear direction for ourselves, what it is we see in your vision, what are we doing to improve water quality? That's the intent of what we're doing. And when people come to us, like they are at the moment, there's community groups, and we like to work it on saying, what are you doing about all that algae in the lakes to try and fix it? We try not to say nothing. And so kind of say, well, there's a plan change out there that's going to try and help address these things over the next 18 years and stuff. So that's the point of it, right?
Right.
And so we need to say the fundamental thing that this council is responsible for. What are we doing? And so that's, I just go back to remind us the point of it. Yeah, we can tweak some of the wording. But we've done a major plan change. Are we going to do another one? We're not doing that one.
Well, that's the point though, Chris, isn't it? We don't know until that court decision is out what the situation is with plan change one. So keeping it open-ended and not putting the word implement in there right now is probably our safest space, I think.
Just basically the environment court's decision.
Or take account of
Yeah.
origin.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly what needs to be.
Robbie? And then I've got Chris.
Yeah, I agree with that discussion. Also, I don't like the word plan as a pilot for further integrated approaches, because that's not what the Whanga Marino was ever designed for. It was just one catchment, not others. So I don't think that wording should be in there at all. That's if we're going to take that model and apply it around the Waikato.
We're always going to apply and learn it.
No,
But we don't have to.
no,
One at a time, thanks.
it shouldn't be there, as far as I'm concerned.
Thanks, Robbie. Chris?
I'd just like to go back and address the issue that Chris has raised, and I understand what he's saying. But we've got a fundamental conflict between the original intent of our strategic plan, which is to grow the economy. And then we're saying, well, hang on a minute, that's all going to be degraded by the requirements to improve the quality of the water. I believe that we need to prioritise. And as far as I'm concerned, the number one priority is growing the economy. If we can do that by achieving improvements in the quality of water and environment, that's a positive. Their number one priority must be to have policies in place which are set to grow the economy. And that's where our strategic plan should be.
Because water quality is optional for you?
No, it's a balance. But the number one priority must be on growing the economy. I had this discussion yesterday with Greg, and I think Noel has as well, that the water catchment from our infrastructure over time can be resolved by putting wetlands and other things in, but it can't be done today, tomorrow, but it can be done when assets are being renewed or if there's extra capital sitting there to be able to do these things. So that's a long-term thing, but it shouldn't, you get what I'm going. So we can get better water quality outcomes, but it's not going to be. Yeah, well, that's the island blocks consent has just been passed because we're not discharging into a waterway, we're discharging into a wetland, and it's going through that for about 1.5 kilometres before it actually gets to a waterway.
I get your point. It was.
Yeah.
So, right, I'm going to leave it there. So you've got,
We've heard what councillors expect, and
Yeah.
I think we can address those
Yeah.
directions.
see what comes back. Yeah.
And the water security. And I'm thinking this is fine. We can. Okay.
Yep.
Lucky last, everyone. Thank you very much. And we are on time.
45 minutes.
Well done. To my transport system. Now, when we started this discussion, Phil, sorry, you weren't in the room. We went round and put this question, and it did come through quite strongly that council see this as a very important priority to transport. And just wanted to check in that still the case as we work through the outcomes, the approach and progress measure. So, The importance of transport to economic growth, Prince is made explicit. And the importance of reliability, efficiency and stability. Also ensuring accessibility and equity. Bringing in everyone that needs transport.
So Karen, just one thing from me is, I think we may need to make sure that we are, articulating that transport for freight is really important to us as well. It's not just, it seems to have a bit of a public transport lens rather than a, hey, it's transport on the whole.
Yeah.
And obviously the freight corridors, et cetera, that go through the Waikato are hugely important. Yeah, Angela.
Karen, just to clarify, what we're seeing in front of us now is taken from current plans such as current.
And this has also been from Phil's expert eye with respect to the plans, and they coincide with the 2035 time frame. And the measures and the outcome are derived from the plan, consistent with what has been approved by the Commission.
Everyone's, oh, sorry, Pete.
I've got three things. Firstly, number of unplanned state highway closures is reduced by 10%. Given that most of those are now occurring due to climate issues, I don't know how you can reduce them by 10%.
We have asked that question.
So that's a target taken straight from the regional land transport plan. And it's about repairing with the capacity to absorb a future event better than the current environment. So instead of just replacing or cutting away a slip and getting ready for the next slip, you put in a retaining wall, you put in some rock wall or a device that makes the network more resilient next time. So this was a measure that was being discussed at the time the ROTP was being developed, and it's just been put straight on the end. So it's just something that the agency will monitor.
If it makes us question and other people will question it as well, it should have something in there about improving the resilience of the highway network or something like that.
Well, the RLTP itself actually includes two statements on this that are almost identical. One is this wording and the other includes the word from natural hazards. And we thought you didn't need both, but we could include those words and make it directly related to that one, which then does connect it directly to climate change as opposed to a general statement about resilience. But if you're
Can I just ask, I would be interested in being more specific about the regional council.
Well,
Contribution, if possible, or to take it out. If we're not doing anything directly to get that. Sure, right.
We don't have actions under it.
So why do we even have it? Because we don't control state highways.
That's, we put what was in the plan here for your consideration. And I'm just,
Don't have control over it, so.
I think we have no goal if we don't have an action.
Well, we can still advocate.
We still have to go.
Resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we do that anyway.
I think, and you've got to remember that our going back to public transport and freight transport and that travels on those state highways and our buses are in front of them. And the road, so.
advocacy, but the measure can stay because we will continue to have. Yeah. Yes.
Second one is,
Yeah.
So,
second one is a 41% reduction in carbon emissions by 2035. How do we get to that? Does it require intervention? Does it require what is that achievable and how do we get, what does it cost?
So that is a target from the emissions reduction plan, and it relates to transport. So it's about us as an operator of a transport network. So our role in that is around our systems, but it's also about us potentially via development, others to find ways to reduce their emissions from transport.
But
And that
that's a cost thing. Are we committing ourselves to a large sum of money by putting that in our strategic plan?
to the extent that it's our responsibility to deliver part of it, then all we're doing is aligning with what's in the emissions reduction plan around zero emission bus fleets.
I mean, I would take it at 41% if they reduce gas generated carbon. That actually might.
There's your legislation.
It's already figured, it's been adopted by the regional community.
Warren, I'd like to comment on that as well, because I remember my notes here, you know, a lot of that's going to be commercially driven for a start, you know, and with how we reduce carbon. And we've also got to look, you know, what is the business case around that? You know, and to quote Jen, I suppose, about a Canadian geese up in country, they fly in and fly out. You know, what is the cost of spending all that money on carbon reduction? Because carbon just flies in and flies out. So we can, you know, we can reduce our carbon here, but it won't change it one iota because new carbon coming from somewhere else. So we actually need a business case around that. What is the cost associated with it? And will commercial reality actually overtake what we're trying to do here? So I'd say this is going to happen whether we like it or not. And for us to waste money on it, to me, is really counterproductive.
Aaron, look like you're about to say something.
I thought, well, we could take that out completely and just the measure is delivering the transport requirements set out in the government's emissions reduction plan.
That's fine.
Yep. I'll go back to Angela now, since I passed her a number of times. We can speak to whichever slide you wish.
Yeah, I suppose it's tricky to measure everything from
So many places.
fully approved things already. And maybe, yeah, we'll inform the next ones. And just looking at the outcome, or progress measure on the that page there, Karen.
Yeah, where?
The whole public transport is active by this year. Levels. Yeah, sort of along those same lines. We need to advocate for the active modes and
Can I get some just clarity around what that is and where we're at currently?
So that's taken from both the regional land transport plan and the regional public transport plan. And it was based around getting the benefits of both the investment that didn't come in the current long-term plan, but also the benefits of the future bus networks that we've been scoping out and we're looking to go out to tender with, which move us from being focused on coverage, which is about being as close to as many people's front doors as possible, to being about ridership, which is about frequent, direct, reliable bus routes. And we've seen from our investment in those already that they have a positive increase on patronage. So the move to have more of those is around significantly increasing public transport trips and public transport share by that date in 2035. So we have a plan. We're implementing it via the devices that we have with us.
And just from that 2018 level, sort of top of your head, where are we now with that Dublin measure? And I assume we're talking patronage.
We're talking about mode share based on that.
Yeah.
But I don't have that number in my head, but it's part of the reports that are coming to you in February. It's part of the transport committee, so you'll see that in the operation.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for us to gauge it if we don't, you know, we're putting figures and dates down there, but we haven't quantified it. You know, so I don't know what kind of investment that may look like for us. You know, that's where I'm trying to relate back to that. Again, we've talked about what may this lock us into, and potentially what what may our constituents look at it and believe they understand from it. So without, a broad plan without any complication. Okay,
The regional PT plans where that's all described.
okay. Liz,
Okay, so I'm generally happy with most of this, but I just kind of want to follow your theme actually on this one, Warren, because there's a lot in here that will, if it's in our, in our vision and in our priorities, we simply have to deliver on that. That will be our plan. Now, at what cost? I don't know the cost. I don't know the cost of doubling public transport. I don't know the cost of investing into the regional rail. What are we committing ourselves here for? I don't feel like I have enough information to want to see that it's prescriptive as what it is right now. It's probably the short version.
yeah, Jen, I've got a speaking order.
Thanks. Yeah, when I was reading through the memo, I got to this table and I thought, whoa, this part needs a lot of work. That's the majority of the reason I just gave it a 7 at the start of the day. And I think I've, through the conversation, figured out what it is, because it looked all over the place to me. And it is because they come from plans that were developed jointly through the regional transport committee and others. And so they have lots of responsibilities from TAs, from NZTA, etc. And there's such high level that we need to figure out what is our path towards those goals and try and pull away the other parts. And then we can get specific about what the resources to do that part of it is. And noting, of course, that we're always reliant on the NZTA for match funding pretty much anything, which is going to, if you want to actually achieve these progress measures, is completely out of our hands. But I can't really get behind these because they're just way too high level. And so what is our part? And I think that'll be great why we have the transport committee internally as well, to figure out what that is, because currently we don't have the understanding towards these big goals, what our part is. And that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. I think we can't resign from what's in already agreed plan.
No, but what do we?
But I think Bill was saying that there is opportunity to have
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. It's our strategic direction.
well, as I'm saying,
Yeah.
you have the opportunity through your next committee to have this conversation. So why don't we park these and actually see if we can focus some of the conversation to give us direction that we can then bring back to you through this.
I think we need to do a.
I've been looking at the speaking order, there's a number of points that people want to raise, so that's potentially the better forum. And then come back to identify that back into this document.
We're not holding up the document by doing that. What I mean is you could simply put you could put words in here that are a little bit more generic for now, that could help just get
in that direction of our.
Okay.
Well, again, I think this is why this thing should be out on its own, because it's something that's super important, and we've got to, again, we need to quantify some stuff. So you get our heads around it.
And see what the vision is.
Yeah, you're happy with that? And that's transport.
Transport committee.
Yeah.
How is the transport committee fit back in here? Because I mean, I'm concerned that many of these targets were set prior to NZTA cutting its budget. Government ultimately share.
On changing.
And putting up the amount of passenger fares. So all of it. So when we say double public transport, shouldn't we say increase public transport rather than doubles? And how can we say interregional rail? We're waiting for an NCTA decision on that. I would delete that.
I'll go to Bill.
So there's a series of layers to this. On top of the fact that we're presenting you with a vision and a strategy that were based on 3 years ago, we also have a draft government policy statement coming out in April or May. We have a whole project plan for the next regional land transport plan coming to you in a high level form to the 17th of February, and then that will become the main work programme for the Regional Transport Committee for the next 12 months. All of that will require this organisation to have a view about what it seems important, which may or may not be the same as what's been presented to you here based on 3 years ago. So to some extent, this ends up being iterative in that you need the time to develop your vision and your strategy for transport. And then that needs to fit into the regional picture and be one of the voices around the table for the regional land transport plan process. So I guess based on the feedback that you're giving us, we could back this right back, make it much more high level, make it much less specific to allow you to have those conversations. The risk of that is that you then don't have clarity about what you're going into the room, thinking about the first rounds of the silo people process over the next 6 months. So it's really interesting chicken and egg. And I guess it would be helpful for us to have a sense of what you want to do in that space and how you want to develop your vision for all each of these things. Having a set point at the time makes that really quite hard in terms of you having to start to do that work.
But developing a vision together is a progress.
Hang on, Jen, I've got to speak again against Noel.
I'm going to destroy the Bill's suggestion there because 3 years ago we did a strategic correction. And then at different times throughout the plan year, staff will bring something to us and we say that's not what we meant by the strategic correction because it's so high level and wishy-washy and it doesn't like it's not in my else's and so intended, but it wasn't tight enough to actually give the direction that we were wanting to give at the start. So if we start looking at up here and being locked in the clouds, we're not actually slowing it down to the direction that we want to go. And so I'm not in favour of that also. And the likes of the are saying, Angela's point, that it's great as well that it's regional, but that as it is, it needs to be taken out of bed as a regional rail freight or whatever. But until we have decisions made later in the term, later in this year, at the annual plan, about whether, so here we are, let's be, get the government room on the table, whether it's going or saying. We don't know that decision, so to put the chief director out ahead of those decisions would be difficult. And there's nothing wrong with continuing today because this group of people is the transport committee. So we're just relaying what we can do today. So I don't see the need to go on to another workshop or committee. We're here.
Yeah.
And we, or what is a workshop, it's only a recommendation that committee can make a decision to recommend back. Let's not put around the bush, let's do it.
So you've had all your input, Chris?
I just want to pick up on one of your chair. And that's this report that's coming back to council in terms of, we're talking about the doubling of the use of transport. We'll make sure that report is adjusted for the increase in population from 2018 to when the report is done. So we're looking at a true increase in growth, not a budget increase in growth.
Yeah.
It's not just an increase in the number of passengers, it's percentage increase. The word is no share, so that stays consistent. Just to make sure that it's not just an increase in the numbers, because population increase should be a percentage increase. I mean, it just the agenda pack that 17 for these 99% finished, and the time of that is really fully allocated. So I don't have to find the right full report on that topic specifically, but I was referring to the operation just within that agenda pack, which would be some recent targets. We can still we can do more work specifically on that. I think it's really hard to get that separate. Thank you.
Keith?
Yes, a lot's transpired in a period of time, so support Noel on the fact we need to set the framework now and not have to rejig a report there, Phil. So I'm supporting that. Going back to the earlier part of the thing, when you use the word equity, Karen, I'm using my terminology. The underbellies. We need to make sure that we provide the opportunity for transport for essential needs for those people. I think, and I don't. While it's mentioned the word equity, is, I don't think it's, appropriate. I think we need to, put a lot of emphasis in our relationship with the NCTA, because obviously that has a huge bearing on it. And I don't think that we can up that, input in there in terms of strategic objective. Concur with the rail thing. I'm a rail person, but it's got to be cost effective. So that wording has to be on the basis that it's cost effective. Same with use of public transport. The area that's not mentioned there that I can read, Karen, is that particularly when you think in terms of Hamilton, where you've got congestion problems there, and whether it's in the spatial planning and that sort of thing, but I really do think we need to look at user pays access to get to the stage where it encourages people to live where they work rather than travel. And the fact that we may have to build more bridges across the line, there are real just for Hamilton, it's just nonsense. You know, we should follow them going across those bridges, make those that use it pay for it. So I think that needs to be brought into that short-term and long-term planning.
But before we move on, can I just get clarity? You want to give direction now about the public transport and that measure about doubling. And so about to regional.
So, Karen, can I suggest this? Is it more helpful to go back to the start of this slide and go line by line?
Yeah.
So because I think we're all bouncing all over the place.
Yeah.
Gary, can you catch up with Catarina for 10 minutes next? Yeah, I just think it'll give us more clarity if we work through line by line and then we can go right that one step up. Let's.
And I wonder if they'll let you think this way.
So maybe just to give you an introduction to the regional transport plan, the document is based around 5 strategic pillars that have been there for a long time, and the prioritisation of those is tended to follow government direction in order for us as a region to put our best foot forward for the things that we will secure investment for. So the 5 areas that are in the RTP are related to climate change, resilience, growth and economic development, accessibility, transport options, and safety. So the wording that you can see coming through here in the context of that document is where the packages or the priorities and then the funding allocations come from.
I think the first one was a good, we're legislatively required to do the RLTP and such, so
No question about that.
no question about that.
Yeah, we did the RLTP last time, right?
It has to be reviewed every 3 years.
So we
It was through 2023 and adopted by RTC and themselves in May 2024, submitted to government, and then the National Land Transport Plan comes out after September 2024, which is where the central government funding is confirmed for the whole route. So this plan includes reseal program for Waitomo, Hamilton wanting to do something with cycleways, all of our bus program and everything else. So we're making a deal on behalf of the whole region.
Prior to the government making its decision on what it was cutting.
Yeah. That's always out of whack.
Yeah,
So it took out of whack, yeah, okay.
Really annoying.
So we'll take 1.
Yep.
2.
I don't understand that one. That's the one where I got my thoughts from. It was like, what is our part in that? What does that look like?
well,
We do.
we're a member of Future Group.
Okay,
So
so-
our regional policies around land use planning and then our regional thinking about transport planning have to integrate for us and then all of the other parties to deliver into that plan.
So what I was saying, Jen, is do we need to insert there that via the future proof?
That one up.
We'll move it
Yeah.
with the other one.
Just so there's clarity, so there's no expectation that, you know, we're going to do more than we are, basically.
So we'll move that future proof up to the.
Thank you.
Included in them.
Yeah.
Merge the two. Yeah, thank you. That's a lot more sense.
talk about the next one?
Yeah.
I think that's what we should stick with and remove the embedding regional layout over the page.
Yeah, they look the same to me.
Well, that actually defines it without actually talking about embedding something and before an NZTA funding decision is made. That's all.
So, there's the.
Being so, I looked at, we looked at here on one of the, progressive measures to resolve rail constraints in your capacity. You know, I don't see that as our role, I suppose, to some extent, you know, building rail capacity. And, so that was
Advocate for what? Funding and building capacity.
resolve rail.
Advocate.
You could advocate that. Yeah.
I mean, the outcome, the third outcomes on the second page, all talks about community transport and then just happens to have a random paragraph in rail.
Yeah, that's right.
So if we just take that out and we have rail covered up high, then it's all there. All good?
The next,
So advocate for improved route resilience.
You got that?
You were going to change the state highway 10% thing, weren't you? You're going to add resilience or something in here.
yeah, I've got that one. Good. And then future proof moves up. So look, if we could start again, please. Excellent progress. Sorry. One more, please. Thank you.
I just, again, question the 41% reduction. Can we just say a reduction?
Yeah, we changed.
We took that out.
Okay.
Yeah, just refer to the, yeah.
And I'd definitely like to discuss the low emission strategy, you know, I'll come back to it, you know, I mentioned it earlier, I'm going to reiterate. No problem with it, but it's going to happen, you know, we don't.
Market led.
We don't, yeah, it's marketing, we don't design buses, we don't build buses or trucks or anything else, you know, that technology will come on board, and so, you know, say we have a low emission strategy, and if we try and front foot that, if we could spend a lot of money trying to buy either electric buses or something, which we could put into some other climate resilience, if that's what you want to do, and let the market deliver the low emissions strategy for us.
And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just one thing to throw in here is Kiwi Rail has done a heap of work on a whole emissions reduction business case, which they presented to the regional transport committee just before the elections.
Okay.
That strategy has two parts. The first is more freight by rail reducing road emissions. The second is shifting to decarbonise the rail system through they're increasing the electrification between Pukekohe and Mountain, or expanding via battery trains through the Parramatta to Tauranga, both of which then double the effect of having more freight by rail and decarbonise rail system. We don't have a role in that, but the rail network improvement plan, which comes from our advocacy through the RLTP, is part of our government allocates money to our region for rail improvements. And while the current one's walking well into anyway, we had another setting about this time around. So us advocating for more is about getting our share of that from government to invest in like everyone.
Yes, Angela.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just.
What you saying about the market thing, yeah, totally agree with Karen actually. Yeah, really keen to get more into it as well, so, you know, people changes to that.
Warren, so just come back on that, you know, the danger, and now you're going to have another workshop on energy and stuff. I mean, there's a real danger. We look at all these things in isolation, and you can say we're going to electrify rail and lower our emissions, but where's the energy going to come from? We're looking at data center computing and everything else that's coming in. You know, one of the big demands around the world is going to be energy. We must want to contemplate to get from space now. You know, so the energy is going to be there. And so to try and say we're going to do this here, but we haven't actually thought about that over there, it's just a nonsense. And so,
I would doing the energy strategy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, so, this is the thing. So truly, there's real danger of looking at things in isolation. So we're going to do this by doing it by occasional batteries or whatever you want, but we're going to use it.
So the way we've always operated is anything that we start to work through on, this is our strategy and it all interlinks. So they're not in silos. So the priorities aren't in silos. You know, so we've spoken of energy and the strategy, etc. in that space when they're talking transport. They're not separate, but they will interlink. So one informs the other. Yeah, thanks. No.
Yes, yeah, but freight doesn't generally emit, so you should really be looking at reduced emissions from freight movement.
Freight movement. From freight movement.
Yeah, freight movement.
Giving off VOCs is a.
I think people understand the difference between freight and public and transport. So
This next slide here, having been involved in collisions. So, as I said, I'm just, 1988 West Year for fatal motor accidents. There were 3.3 million people in New Zealand, now we've got nearly 6 million, so nearly double. There were 1.98 million cars on the road, or vehicles on the road. There's now 4.7 million vehicles on the road. It's a 37% increase. In 1988, when I was involved in fatal motor accidents, I had 30 behind my desk and I was now at least on 300. So the double, so nearly tripled vehicles. We've reduced the death rate on our roads by 50%. So it's just, well, I didn't want to be involved in another one. I want to see people fly on the roads. There's significant improvements, not any acknowledge it.
thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm going back to one of my old pet subjects, which has not been on here, and that's energy. And we all know, those that come in the region know, that nuclear fission or fission is virtually involved. Nuclear is the most efficient way of putting energy in our network.
So do you want that included in our strategy?
I'll tell you why. Because people were sitting next to me at a meeting before Christmas, and I raised this issue with the Prime Minister, and he said, we don't hear a lot of noise coming from the regions on this topic. All right? So if we don't put it in there, the Wellington and politicians, we're the biggest energy generator in New Zealand. If we don't do something about it, they ain't going to do anything about it. They need some fresh water. So I'm moving, we should be putting it in there.
Could I see the it should go into the energy strategy.
Yeah, correct.
So they're not. And just the government just getting $35 million
Yes, correct.
to Wellington. So
Just about let's. Is the one of those, that's what we're working through.
Yes, because if we, in terms of our strategic plan, we're talking about profitability and productivity. We've always got to make sure that the option we take is the least our residents about internal. So the application doesn't scrap it, be commercial about it. So that has to be the message to NZ Rail as well.
I feel with the safety one, it's just in regards to the community transport one. The progress measure is double public transport active mode share, but the progress measure, we don't have anything near community transport mentioned there, and I just don't want it to get lost. So.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good point. Community transport has significantly grown in time that this plan has been in place. And as council, you've given significantly more funding for community transport than was in place at the time that the LTP was approved. So the vision and the strategy and the plan for community transport is something that I'd really be keen council to spend some time on. I think we could create a progress measure there, whether it's about
you can find the word.
when there's things like volunteer hours, kilometres travel, there are sorts of things we're tracking there for the investment we're making now.
Even just having a vision for it will then have those things for.
I think that's something, but we're not quite there yet. So, but I think it's really important we have something.
Thank you.
Karen,
Can I please just get clarity on those 2 points there about, the double public transport? Was that conditional on match funding? Is that the way?
It has to be, because
But is that?
well,
That's
well,
the.
we want to quantify what that actually means,
Yeah.
because it's talking about a time span,
Yeah.
and none of us understand what that may cost us and what that actually means and where we sit now. So
So if we work out budget specificity to enable that understanding, to bring it back.
well, then I think we could put some wording around it. I just don't think we can at the moment.
We
Yes.
So increases public transport. We changed the word doubles to increase.
Again, I still think we need to quantify what that may cost and mean.
Yeah, that's what
You know, you can't put something in there if we don't know
Yeah.
potentially what that may look like. So we can get some qualification around it then.
And also the embedded individual well disappears because it's
Yes, it
covered.
does.
Yeah, that's gone. Yeah.
Rory just raised a good point, which is just around increasing public transport to get specific around whether that's patronage or the amount of buses, that kind of thing.
Well, at the
When you're
moment it's specific to node share. We can work on that. We can give you a range of
When we approve it.
Angela, did you have a minute?
Say, yeah, we intend to increase it.
Yeah.
So I want to, we're not aim to decrease it, I would say,
And make it effective.
It's the intent of the statement. Okay.
Why do we actually have that as an intent? Like, you can't force people on a bus. That will happen. You provide a service when there's a demand. It should be demand driven, not. I suppose the question is it demand driven or is it service driven? Really, which is the guts of it.
I can help, it always fell out. It always fell out of the list.
Yes.
Plan.
It's demand ideally, and that then is serviced as required rather than us suddenly providing 3 times more vehicles and they're hoping people build up. So it will always be staged. It has to be. What we really need is a whole program of promotion around public transport that encourages people to shift, and then we provide the vehicles for them to do that. So,
However, the government is insisting we have electric buses, which is a huge capital cost potentially. So we've got costs coming in here, even if the demand is not there.
buying new diesel buses is a big capital cost as well. At the moment, somebody's paying that. So there's a whole bunch of things in that. And as a country, we're all working through it.
Something new?
Yes, I'll be addressing the elephant in the room. To me, unless we get to the buses, we're not going to get any faster, and you're not going to charge anyone onto a bus. So,
That's what that's in the metro spatial plan. We'll cover that in the infrastructure committee.
well, let's have one.
Well, I would be very pleased if you were to advocate that Hamilton invest in public transport infrastructure.
I tried that on the public transport committee.
That's coming. Right,
Did they put circles?
you got everything, Karen?
I have.
I think
Thank you.
we've gone through.
One more question. Go on.
Well, we did hear nuclear, so you missed nuclear.
No, we've got the energy.
Okay.
He's prepared to push the button too.
Yeah. So,
A little bit much text on that first page, but it's nice, yeah.
It needs good edit, no doubt about it.
Just a bit of an edit.
yeah.
Otherwise,
First draft.
Right.
Is there anything else? Yeah,
Just one,
yeah, Liz.
what in your view, what was in there before that's not in there now? Or what are we missing? What are we less focused on now overall?
Don't mention well-being once.
That's fine.
Thank you. Is that the? That's good to know.
Reframe.
It's actually a big shift from previous government, central government direction. Focusing very much on still what's most important for the one country region, which is in the end to deliver the well-being.
Yeah. Just picking up from Ben's comment, and it's been pedantic, but in those three pillars there, strong economy should be first.
You have balance, transparency and equity across the pillars.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Can I just
just
say that should be thrown away, as you pointed out, the novels, the text, didn't
Yeah.
Yes, he said we disagree. You know, if this wants to happen there, are we happy with it? You know, his challenge it, right? So, you know, if people happy with that, then let's declare on that.
Well, let's hear your points of view. I don't think there's a hierarchy indicated in there, but if people view it differently, then we've heard that one views it.
the perception that it's a hierarchy when it's third, because that's the way it is, that's the perception. You see that,
You would have
It's ranked number 3.
First, it's in front.
Is there an opportunity here to talk about the agreed wording that, like you do? I don't see the point in changing 4 details, but there is a nesting to them, and if we can emphasize that, that's fine with me. But yeah, I feel like we're getting into this really weird.
I think when our economy depends on the environment.
Yeah,
It depends on smarts of the people who then apply their knowledge, know-how and technology to the environment to create the economy. I actually think it's fine to go from left to right. So the progression of how people work and how we create profit.
One of the time, guys, one of the times.
I seriously challenge that statement because I've always looked at it the other way around. I think our environment is absolutely dependent on the economy. Because I do not see a single economy anywhere in the world that is really lower down, that you have a healthy environment, you have massive pollution, you have all sorts of problems. So I fundamentally challenge that statement.
But the economy usually creates.
Ben, mate, thanks.
Yeah.
Ben,
So, I mean, where we were at was
Talking
previously,
three
this
pillars.
was small and it went up in an arrow. We made them all equal. I think that's a significant step. And given that the regional council was set up for the environment in the first place.
No, it was not.
But it's just.
That's enough, mate, one at a time, thanks.
The environment, I don't see a problem with having this. And if you change this, this is the purpose, we've got healthy environment, blah, blah, blah. We have to change all our documentation. I think this is fine. We've already made it shift from where it was.
Agreed.
Thanks.
Can we take this short one?
No,
No,
right, that's us, Karen. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry you're not chairing this meeting.
I'm saying I'm challenging you, Mr. Chair.
Well, it's a workshop, no decisions being made, straw poll or otherwise.
Can you ask everyone's opinion in
Right.
the chair?
Thank you very much. I'll get Chris to finish with the karaoke.
No, you're coming back. Don't close yet. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, you're right. We're gonna be back after lunch. Yeah, and then I won't be chairing and then maybe no one will get you away. Yep, so thank you very much, staff. Thank you very much, Karen. Excellent outcome.